Thank you so much, Broadcast. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. And thank you to all of you who have been patient as we work through this afternoon and are joining us online. We appreciate your patience and your participation. Members, please remember to unmute or to mute your microphone and unmute when speaking. And will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Orenshaw.
Here.
Senator Goycochea. Senator Neal.
Here.
Senator Hansen.
Here.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Here. And please mark Senator Goycochea present as he arrives. I will not take the time to go over our housekeeping rules today. I am hoping that everyone remembers those because we are on a little bit of a timeline, knowing that the bell could ring at any moment. So we will begin, and we will now hear Senate Bill 222. This measure reverses provisions relating to governmental administration. And I welcome Senator Scheibel. And Senator Scheibel, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair Dondero Loop. For the record, my name is Melanie Scheibel. I represent Senate District 9 in the southwest part of Las Vegas. It is my honor to present to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs today SB 222. 2 was my lucky number growing up, so I think that's why they assigned me this bill. And I will turn it over very shortly to a friend and colleague, Eric Jimenez, who will be able to walk you through the bill and explain a little bit more of the background and purpose behind it. But very briefly, what it does is it establishes diversity liaisons within government commissions and boards. The purpose of a diversity liaison is to ensure that minority communities are being considered thoughtfully when we make policy and even when we implement policy changes and decisions, so that whether it is members of the community who have different abilities, whether it is members of the community who belong to racial, ethnic, or sexual minorities, that every time a commission, a board, an agency of the Nevada state government starts to look at their current practices and thinks about changing their practices, we ensure that they're reaching out to those communities, including their voices, and reaching all Nevadans when it comes to providing services and accepting input. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Mr. Jimenez to, like I said, give you a little bit more background and walk us through the bill.
Cool. Thank you, Senator Scheibel, Chair Dondero Loop. For the record, I'm Eric Jimenez, and I'm actually not here on behalf of the State Treasurer's Office today. In my other life, I am the board chair for the Office of Minority Health and Equity, and Senate Bill 222 is one of the bills that came out of the governor's proclamation stating that racism is a public health crisis and some of the things that we witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. So in the 2019 session, the legislature passed AB 264, which required state agencies to designate tribal liaisons to ensure that our 27 tribes always had a seat at the table when decisions were being made at the state level. Thus far, in its infancy, that program, I think, has been tremendously successful, and the Nevada Indian Commission has really done a lot of good work to make sure that agencies are collaborating and working to make sure that they're meeting the needs of tribes. So in thinking about that framework, when we were in the COVID crisis, we thought, how could we expand on this concept and really make sure that all of the state's minority communities were being represented and heard? So broadly speaking, Senate Bill 222 is looking to continue on this work and operationalize Senator Spearman's concurrent resolution and the governor's proclamation to start breaking down some of the structural barriers that people in disadvantaged communities face every single day. We worked for months as part of the advisory committee for the Office of Minority Health and Equity to get feedback on this bill. We talked to communities far and wide, and we really think that after some of those conversations that we have a pretty good bill in front of us. And one of the biggest pieces, and I think this is really important, oftentimes some state agencies are already doing this work but I think this formalizes that process. And then a big crucial piece of this is it encourages state agencies to work together, because if we just implement cultural competency, or if we're only reaching out from one agency at a time, the state as it's an entity itself is really not meeting the needs of minority communities to the best that it can. We're hopeful that this will foster interagency collaboration to include things like improving language access to ensure that all Nevadans can communicate and interact with their government, improving ADA accessibility for persons with disabilities. I know Senator Orenshaw knows that I've worked with him for numerous sessions now on figuring out ways that we can make our government more accessible for our friends in the disability community. And then more importantly, making sure that when an agency launches a new program, or as we have new funding coming into the state, that we're meeting people and the organizations that serve them where they are in the community to get some feedback on those programs. Madam Chair, I'm happy to briefly walk through the bill. I know we're on a time crunch, so I could walk through it, or I could stop there. It's up to you.
Eric, I think or Mr. Menace, I think it would be important to walk through part of the bill. So if you could go ahead and do that, I think it would help us understand where we're trying to go with this. So please go ahead.
Yeah, and I would note, thank you, Madam Chair, Eric Jimenez, for the record. There is a mock-up on the exhibits on Nellis that's reflective of an amendment that we worked with the Department of Health and Human Services, the Commission on Minority Affairs, and the Office for New Americans on. So I think this mock-up gets us to a place where we can limit the potential fiscal impact on this and really do some good work. So broadly, under the mock-up that's attached, Sections 4 through 8 are definitional sections, and these are mirrored off of existing language and statute. So some of this language is a little old, but we wanted to be conform with the statute that was already in NRS 232. Minority groups under those definitions include ethnic and racial minorities, people with disabilities, and members of our LGBTQ community. Section 9 of the bill states that state agencies should make a reasonable effort to collaborate with minority groups in developing policies and programs that directly affect people from those communities. I think it's important, and we saw this with COVID as we were doing small business assistance and rental assistance, that sometimes decisions are made in a room in Carson City when they affect populations that aren't in Carson City. And I think it's important that to the extent that we can, we're going out to those communities and getting feedback. 2, it would ensure that programs and services offered by the agency are inclusive of minority groups. And I think the state has really struggled with ADA accessibility and how to increase access and participation. So this could be a really useful tool. And then finally, as we're coming into changing demographics as a state, making sure that when we do have the resources available, the agencies are offering information about their services in multiple language. Section 10 requires state agencies who predominantly serve people in minority communities to designate a liaison, which is responsible for the things that we've mentioned, namely providing technical assistance to the agency that are designed to increase access for people in minority communities, and then working collaboratively with liaisons from other state agencies so that we can develop plans and recommendations to you all for ways that we can better serve the people of the state. Section 11 of the mock-up simply states that agencies should make the contact information of their liaison available and then distribute that information to the 3 predominant agencies that work specifically with minority communities, directly work with these folks. And then lastly, Section 12 of the bill requires the Office of Minority Health and Equity, the Commission on Minority Affairs, and the Office for New Americans to collaboratively work together to organize an annual meeting to discuss ways that we can increase access and inclusivity. And then we can also work towards eliminating systemic racism and, kind of tear down some of those structures that have led to discrimination across the state. And then I think most importantly, I think it's really important that this isn't something that just lives and dies, but that that meeting keeps happening when, different legislatures and different governors are in place so that we can make life just a little bit easier for folks in these communities. So with that, Madam Chair, that's the end of my presentation. And I know Senator Scheibel and I are happy to take any questions.
Okay, so everybody has to take a big pause because the bell just rang for the floor. So if you could take a deep breath, load your patience. We all need to head to the floor, and we will continue this conversation and ask questions upon our return. I'm not sure exactly how long that will be, but if you will stay tuned, it will be the call of the chair so we will recess at this point. See you back here in just a little bit, and Government Affairs is in recess.
Chair broadcast is ready. You may call the meeting back to order.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience this afternoon. We had a slight interruption, but I'd like to call the Government Affairs meeting back to order. And we had just finished with a bill overview by Mr. Jimenez and Senator Scheibel. So, Senator Scheibel, did you have anything else to add before we go to members' questions?
Oh, happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. And I would go to the committee and ask if anybody has any questions on this bill. Vice Chair Orenshaw, please.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And a quick question. Thank you, Chair Scheibel, for bringing the bill. And thank you, Mr. Jimenez. And I appreciate your comment. And it was great working with you last session on the 700 hours program and trying to make sure that that was kept as strong as possible, try to help as many people as possible. My question for whoever would like to take it, on Section 4, the definition now includes a group of persons with disabilities. If this bill passes, will the Office of Minority Health and Equity expand its role in terms of advocating for persons with disabilities, or is this something they've already been doing?
So thank you for the question, Senator Eric Jimenez, for the record. The Office of Minority Health and Equity is already working with these defined groups. So this would not expand the role of the office. I know that there's some other legislation that was introduced today that would potentially do that, but that's not the intent of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Additional questions from the committee?
Yes, Chair.
Senator Neal, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I have questions. I understand where you guys are trying to go with the bill, but I guess my concern is, like, the Office of Minority Health currently for equity is underfunded, and it's been underfunded since 2005. And so I understand, like, the goals in the amendment and the goals that are in the original bill. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, how are we going to fund these efforts and these collaborations? I know what the governor put out, but the dollars are not necessarily following what has been stated as this movement on racism.
So, Senator Scheibel, it's okay if I'll take this one real quick, and if you have anything to add. Eric Jimenez, for the record. Senator Neal, you're absolutely right. I think your point is well taken in that you know that the Office of Minority Health and Equity is one person with grant-funded staff, and then the Office of New Americans is about 2 people, and the Commission on Minority Affairs is 1 or 2 people as well. I think the intent of the proposed amendment or the mock-up is to try to spread that around, so not one person is going to be focused on doing one report. I do think it's important, though, that these groups are engaged in this work every single day. And I think that's why it's also important that we take a step like this, or if you want to work with us on what that might look like, how do we encourage other agencies to get to the table while you guys have some of those funding discussions? That's not a conversation for me, but I think what we're trying to do is just move the ball forward on how can we get every agency really committed to, working in minority communities, meeting people where they are, et cetera.
Thank you for that. Quick follow-up, Chair. So Commission on Minority Affairs, I know they have an ombudsman, but majority of the members who sit on Commission of Minority Affairs, they're volunteers from the community. They don't get paid. This is just effort on their part. And so how do you envision this collaboration working? I understand the concept, power in numbers, but a lot of the legislation that you're talking about merging, except for the Office of New Americans, like I think Commission of Minority Affairs has been around since 2005 or maybe even earlier than that. And so we have at least a 16-year history in the state around these agencies' interest and participation. So I didn't see, maybe I'm missing the shall, but I didn't necessarily see shall, or is it in there? Because as long as it's permissive, I don't see the traction happening unless it's a mandated activity or behavior, which then creates a fiscal note.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Senator Eric Jimenez, for the record. So we are putting a shall in that someone should designate, or they shall designate a diversity and inclusion liaison, and that those liaisons shall participate at the meeting. I think we're walking a delicate balance. I know as well as you do that we have finite resources, but I still think with the resources we have, we should be doing everything we can to at least keep moving the ball on this conversation. So I hear you, and if you want to talk about long-term funding for the Office of Minority Health and Equity or any of the other agencies, I'm happy to join you in those conversations. But I think we're trying to do the best that we can with the resources that we have available.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from the committee? I have one. I think it was section 9, and you talked about a reasonable effort to collaborate. So can you help me and define or give me some additional information on the word reasonable?
Yes, thank you for the question. Eric Jimenez for the record, Madam Chair. We were trying to make it clear, I think, in this portion of statute of what the roles and responsibilities of state agencies are. State agencies are defined in NRS 232, and there was no real declaration that agencies should be making an effort to reach out to members of minority groups. I think the term reasonable, and I'd be happy to work with you all if you think it should be stronger or weaker, is that when we come to things like ADA accessibility or language access plans, those cost a lot of money. Right. So I'm cognizant of the realities of the situation. I'm not proposing to each agency that they need to stand up these very, very expensive services. I think what we should do, though, is start this conversation, have the framework in place, and at least create the table and the space where these conversations can happen on a statewide basis, and really kind of come back and see what those recommendations are in Section 12 to see if we can do more permanent actions.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from the committee? I don't see any at this time. We will be going to support, opposition, and neutral. So broadcasting, if you could go ahead and start that process for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. To testify in support of SB 222, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 069, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Andre Wade, Andrewade. Hello, Chair Dondero Loop, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and committee members. I'm State Director for Silver State Equality and also a member of the Advisory Committee for the Nevada Office of Minority Health and Equity with Mr. Jimenez. And we're calling in support of this important legislation. And to the Senator Neal's questions about funding and capacity, we had these same conversations and saw this as a viable option as a workaround in the interim to lessen the impact of the work on the office given its limited staff. And so we just see this collaborative effort as being a way to increase some offices' reach into these different minority communities to help further the work that we hope to accomplish over the the coming years. So in closing, I would again like to offer my support on this bill, and I really hope that you all will vote in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm calling in support. My name is Dora Lee Martinez. That's Doralee. Martinez, Martinez, and I represent the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition group. We are people of different disability, and we are supporting this bill. And here's one of many examples. So I am totally blind, and I was reading this the bill on the LCB website, and I think you all know that you can see some of the bills. Somebody was telling me that they are bullet, italics, or different colors. And so as a blind individual who cannot see colors, and my phone, I have an iPhone, and it reads to me with a voiceover, but it doesn't tell me that the word reasonable is in italics or different color. So I was trying to call the LCB office to have somebody read to me and describe which is taken out, which is amended. And I know, you guys are all busy, and your staff are awesome. They're amazing. But they were not able to help because they're busy with other stuff. So what Mr. Eric Jimenez and I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher, the Assemblywoman Scheibels are doing is awesome, because it will advise us, people with disability, on who to call. There'll be a designated place or office for us to call and become a well-informed and active member of the community. And I think that this is a good step forward, so that way people with disability can make an impact and show you what works for us. For me, as a blind person, may not work for a person who is dyslexic or, in that spectrum of autism, or, just different learning disabilities. So I thank you, and thank you, Mr. Eric Jimenez, and thank you so much for taking my call. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, and you did just fine on the name. Senator Scheibel will be happy with that. Thank you. Next caller.
Thank you. We are currently taking support on SB 222. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 341, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Daniel Corona, Daniel Corona. Good evening, Chair Dondero Loop, Vice Chair Ornshaw, members of the Government Affairs Committee. I know many of you. My name again is Daniel Corona. I'm the mayor of West Wendover. I'm calling in tonight in strong support of SB 222. As anyone who knows me or has ever had a conversation with me knows, West Wendover is one of those rare majority minority communities in rural Nevada, and that is why part of the reason I am in such strong support of this bill. SB 222 will help give communities like mine a seat at the table. It also will help us break down barriers to access and ultimately make government more effective and accessible for all Nevadans, especially those who government doesn't always work the most efficiently for. As I take off my mayor hat, I also work for a local nonprofit, and we are constantly trying to put folks in touch with different state agencies, and it would be such a great help if we were able to point to, a liaison who is fluent in Spanish, who could help my constituents access the services that they're trying to access. That's one of the great things about SB 222. It gives us a name and an agency to call so that we have direct access to help our folks get help that they need. And again, like I said, it will make our government more accessible and effective. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for joining us today. Next caller.
Thank you, Chair. You currently have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to opposition.
To testify in opposition of SB 222, Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to neutral.
To testify neutral on SB 222, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. That closes this portion of the hearing. Senator Scheibel or Mr. Menace, do you have any closing comments?
I would like to thank the committee for their time and also offer to continue to answer any questions that you might have offline. And I do also want to acknowledge that we really appreciate Chair Don Darrell working with us to make sure that we got our bill heard today despite the strange scheduling of our day. And I think that may have affected also some people who are planning to call in and testify in support. And I would encourage them to send in their written comments. I'll follow up with them as well. But again, thank you for accommodating us on this unusually scheduled day and for hearing our bill.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to make sure that Ms. Beth Handler was not on the line and did not get through. I did understand she was going to testify today. Broadcasting, is there anybody else in the queue?
Madam
Chair, I can call her.
I'm actually on the Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
I have my hand raised. I apologize.
I'm sorry, I can't see that on my, if I can see it, I don't know where it is. So please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Beth Handler. I'm the Deputy Director of Programs at the Department of Health and Human Services. And I also wanted to thank Senator Scheibel and Mr. Jimenez for introducing this bill. I will provide some brief comments on Senate Bill 222 as my colleague Tina Dorch, who oversees the Office of Minority Health and Equity, couldn't be here today. She had the passing of a family member, but as many of you are familiar, I just have to acknowledge Tina and the tireless work that she does on behalf of the Office of Minority Health and Equity. SB 222 aligns with the mission of our Department of Health and Human Services and the office. And this is especially to improve the quality of healthcare services and access for members of minority groups. This is including the BIPOC community, the Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people who are differently abled, and our SOGI, our sexual orientation and gender identity community that we want to be inclusive of. The office's mission is also to disseminate information, educate the public on matters concerning healthcare issues. And so, of course, SB 222 is very much aligned with the work that we're already doing. We also have HIAP, which is Health in All Policies. And this is an approach, again, aligned with much of the language that we've seen in this legislation that engages communities and engages state agencies in having the discussion about of minority health and minority involvement at the inception of a project or policy. And that's really part of our systems change. We did have a fiscal note, as Senator Neal mentioned, to the Office of Minority Health and Equity, where we want to be aggressive about building the capacity of that office and funding it. And we did have a fiscal note for this bill, but based on the amended language and the collaboration with the Commission on Minority Affairs, the Office of New Americans, and then again, with the gist of this bill being getting all state agencies and departments involved, accessing possibly their resources, their staffing, their expertise as well in a centralized way, we do believe that we can move forward with having an annual meeting, probably by Zoom. We're not looking at travel for everyone or doing major coordination that would possibly require extensive facilitation. And then, of course, developing the annual report, we believe we can do electronically and with collaboration with the diversity liaisons across all of the state agencies. So thank you for the opportunity to share that today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience as we work through this virtual world we're in. Thank you very much. I believe that's the end of that piece. I think we've got everybody. And so if Senator Scheibel, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Menace, for your patience. We will go to public comment. Broadcasting, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To speak in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 069, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 069, please press star 6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
Hi, this is Andre Wade, again, ANDREWADE. I just wanted to quickly echo Senator Scheibel's comments about Chair Dondero-Loop's and the committee's willingness to be nimble to have this hearing heard. I know that you all have a lot going on, so the fact that you all were able to juggle all of this and still have this hearing was really appreciative. So hats off to you all, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. We need somebody on the team because it gets a little hairy sometimes. Thank you.
Chair, your line is open and working, and you have no more callers at this time.
Okay, we'll wait just a minute to make sure we didn't lose anybody or somebody isn't jumping on right now with the delay in the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Standing by.
Broadcasting, any additional callers?
Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that concludes our meeting, and we appreciate all of your flexibility. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, March 24th at 3:30, and it will be at 3:30. So we will see you all then, and thank you very much for hanging in there. Have a nice evening. This meeting is adjourned.